taking a look back on Week 4 in Western Pennsylvania. Week 4 football recap podcast series here at SportsNet.com. I'm James Dotson. Glad to be here yet again. As always, our weekly updates delivered to you by Penn Ohio Bottled Water. Make sure you give Penn Ohio Bottled Water a call for delivery of your bottled water services, whether it's 3 or 5 gallon full feeder systems, or those individual 16-ounce bottles. Make sure you ask about their custom label options as well. Let's get into it with our lone county against county matchup last week. Union traveling to the Leonard S. Rich Athletic Complex for the game against the Laurel Spartans. Union able to come away with a 33-14 victory to maintain their undefeated status in conference play, 4-1 overall. And Union, man, they came out guns a-blazing. Well, yes, pun intended on that one, because Mike Gunn had himself a career day, 4 touchdowns on the evening, but began with Braylon Thomas on the first drive, a third down and short, and it turned into a long gain, a 56-yard touchdown run for the quarterback keeper. Then after a couple of 3-and-outs, Mike Gunn ends up catching a pair of touchdown passes, one from 8 yards and one from 25 yards out. It was 19-0 Scotties at the end of the first quarter, but all credit to Laurel because they could have packed it in, gone home early, but they kept on fighting. They score a touchdown midway through the second on a fourth down completion from Lucas Santini to Jack Miles. That cut the score 19-7 at the half. Then Laurel takes the second half kickoff, drives deep into Scotty territory. The Union defense held up in the red zone, but then they coughed the ball up a couple of plays later. Laurel recovers, and Santini with a QB sneak cut the lead to 19-14. Real quick, the 2 extra points converted by Maya Jarrett for Laurel, we're still trying to officially confirm, but we do believe that those are the first 2 points ever scored by a female in Laurel football history. So congrats, Maya Jarrett, for hitting that milestone. Union, no responding. They're now only up 5, but they respond immediately. A quick drive down the field. Mike Gunn with a Wildcat touchdown run. He would then get another one to start the fourth quarter. Actually later in the fourth quarter, because the drive went over 7.5 minutes, capping it off, a 33-14 victory. How about Gunn? Finishes with 92 yards on 14 carries on the ground. Plus, he caught another 7 balls for 92 yards, and he scored a touchdown. That's 2 touchdowns each way. Big evening for the Gun Show, our MVP of the game. Lucas Santini, he played really well for Laurel at quarterback. Spartan quarterbacks had only thrown for 133 yards combined all year for the first 4 weeks, so he put up just shy of 100 in this game alone, including a touchdown run and pass. And I give a shout-out to Ben Hennon, the running back, another 100-yard rushing game after he missed last week. And our play of the game, got to give a shout-out to Andrew Cartwright for his one-handed interception to seal the game. And another tradition, we're going to steal this one from the Trib Live High School Sports Network. We're going to keep shouting out the homecoming queens. We missed, I believe, Union had their homecoming very early. Hats off to Allie Ross, the Union homecoming queen, and crowned on Friday night, Addie Deal, the Laurel homecoming queen. So congrats to Miss Deal for the 2023 Laurel Spartan homecoming queen. It was also homecoming in Bessemer. Let's get that out of the way right here. Mohawk's homecoming queen, Ella Hyatt Bainey. Congratulations for the 2023 Mohawk Warrior homecoming queen, as Mohawk hosting New Brighton in this game, and it wasn't a game for very long. Mercy rule by the time halftime had arrived, a 42-6 final for Mohawk, defeating New Brighton. Jay Rona just doing what he does. 3 touchdowns through the air. He now has 20 on the season. The Warriors, they struck early, they struck often. Bobby Fadden catches 2 of those touchdown passes. Dante Retort caught the third. And Justin Boston cashed in with a couple of rushing touchdowns. And speaking of cash, how about Cash Stratton, the freshman, also getting one on the ground. Mohawk, they're now 2-0 in conference play. We're going to talk about another team that's 2-0 in Class 2A's Midwestern Conference when we return. Back in a moment. It's the LC SportsNet podcast series. It's delivered by Penn Ohio Bottled Water.
Don't get left out to dry. Call the Penn Ohio Bottled Water Company for the fastest and most efficient bottled water delivery service in the area. Penn Ohio offers bottled water ranging from 16.9-ounce bottles to 5-gallon jugs, perfect for your next event or office water cooler system. Also, don't forget to ask about their custom labeling options. Visit PennOhioBottledWater.com for more information and to get a quote on their delivery services. Whether it's at home, in the office, or on the sidelines, Penn Ohio has you covered.
We'll give a big shout out to Penn Ohio Bottled Water. They're also going to be responsible here on Monday for the WPIL championships for golf. They're going to be getting us some score updates from Willowbrook Country Club for the first round of WPIL Boys Individual Championships. Make sure you stay tuned for updates on that. Big update coming through, though, for Friday night's game. How about this one? For the second straight week, Neshannock gets a 27-26 victory, a 1-point win, and they both came in identical ways. Neshannock leading 27-20. Opponent scores a touchdown. Last week it was Western Beaver with about $1.40 remaining. They stopped the 2-point conversion. This week it's in overtime. Neshannock scores first in overtime on a Gino Mazzacco 10-yard run up the middle. And then the Neshannock Lancer defense comes up big on the game-winning 2-point conversion attempt. Beaver Falls receiver reaches for the pylon, but the combination of Anthony Bonner and Braden Huff knock him out of bounds just short of the line to gain. Got to give a huge shout-out to a Geneva College student, former Laurel Spartan, Landon Smith, got this incredible shot, and we're putting that video up on our podcast here today because just incredible how close it was. Believe it or not, that's the first ever time Neshannock has defeated Beaver Falls. First time ever. Yes, they've only played 4 times, and it's been in the last probably 5 or 6 years, but still a big shout-out to Neshannock defeating the Tigers. They were outgained, was Neshannock, big time. 354 to 133 in the contest. The defense stepped up huge. I mean, that last play speaks for itself, but how about this? 2 of Neshannock's touchdowns in the first half came from the defense. A pair of pick sixes in the first half. Pat Argero took one back 82 yards to the house. Anthony Bonner, a 23-yard pick six as well. Neshannock now at 2-0 after their victory. How about this, though? Maybe the biggest upset of the night, even more than Neshannock getting their first ever against Beaver Falls. Shenango, a banged-up Shenango team, really low on the numbers right now with the roster, but they get the job done. A huge homecoming upset victory over previously unbeaten Rochester. Final score 18-6. It was a huge night for Colton Fedrizzi. He caught the game's opening touchdown, also had a couple of turnovers defensively with a fumble recovery and an interception. The Cats led 8-0 at half. Rochester got their lone score on a 40-yard touchdown run by Don Guido. Andy Johnston starts the fourth quarter with a long field goal, 41 yards. The big leg Johnston extended that lead at that point, 11-6. And then quarterback Sam Myers able to get a quarterback sneak to round out the scoring at 18-6. Rochester, that's their first loss of the year. I mean, they like the Cats. I mean, cards on the table, yes. They were playing without some key components, mainly their all-state running back and linebacker, the junior Antonio Lori. He's a big part of their game. He was not available for the game against Shenango. But hey, all credit to Shenango because they're able to weather their own storm. They're missing a whole bunch of pieces on their team. And to be able to get this huge win, well, in terms of playoff implications, that plays a huge, huge role. As you look at it, in that Big 7 conference, you have right now Union and Southside at the top of the conference. You expected Rochester to be up there after their successful year a year ago. Laurel, a team that was losing a lot of players. Shenango, a team that is low on numbers but had a lot returning. One of those 5 teams I just mentioned is out of the playoffs. While Shenango getting this win against Rochester gives them huge upside potential heading the rest of the way. Oh, and I did mention it was homecoming there at Glenn Pop Johnston Stadium, Frank Bonjavengo Field. Your homecoming queen, Elise Lenhart, for the Shenango Wildcats. Congratulations to Elise. Let's head down south now. Elwood City hosting Western Beaver, the 3-1 Wolverines, the 1-3 Golden Beavers, but it is Western Beaver starting to put it all together here. A 41-18 victory, and man, what can you say about Javen Peel? He was lights out throwing the football, the freshman quarterback. 338 yards, scores 4 touchdowns, 3 of them coming from 45 yards and beyond. Elwood actually led in this game a couple of different times, 6-0 and 12-7, but that big play just really came back to bite the Wolverines. 3 Elwood turnovers certainly didn't help either, including a couple that were deep in Golden Beaver territory. Another game with a passing touchdown for Chris Smiley. He threw on the Michael Walters, but Elijah Palmer-McCain, how about these numbers? 38 rushes in the game, 216 yards, and those 2 touchdowns, but still a defeat from Western Beaver over Elwood City, 41-18. From down south to up north, Wilmington at Sharon, and the Sharon Tigers defense is just incredible, isn't it? 4 of their first 5 games now, they get a touchdown. They get a shutout, this time an 18-0 victory over Wilmington. Budabuk led the way, 75 yards on the ground for the Hounds, and really they did a great job keeping the Sharon offense at bay. However, Mr. Ham, the Sharon quarterback, was able to get a couple of big plays himself. He accounted for all 3 Tiger touchdowns in this victory. And again, Wilmington outgained Sharon. They had more first downs than Sharon, very similar to what Beaver Falls had in their game against Neshannock. However, just because you have more yards, more first downs, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the win. The Tigers defense, maybe a little bend, don't break, but they certainly did not break in another game with a goose egg. Sharon now 4-1 on the year. Wilmington at 2-3. They're 2-2 right now in region play. Is that correct? Yeah, 2-3 overall, 1-3, in region 3 play there in D10. And the last one, Newcastle at Central Valley, your final update of the night. Central Valley, they lead the Canes 28-7 at half. They cruise to a 42-14 victory. Give a shout out for a 4-touchdown performance from the quarterback, Mr. Richardson, there at Central Valley. 3 different players running the ball, including Mason Dixon. Again, another big day for him and the Warriors. The Canes put 14 points on the board, but it is number 14 in a row in terms of the loss column for the Newcastle Red Hurricane. Well, that will wrap this episode up of your Lawrence County SportsNet weekly update, your podcast series, again delivered by our friends at Penn Ohio Bottled Water. Penn Ohio Bottled Water do the heavy lifting by bringing refreshing water right to your door. We're going to continue as we're halfway through the year. That's incredible. Officially halfway through the year. The rest of the way, it's the downhill stretch towards that stretch run. We'll have all the previews, updates, and make sure you stay tuned. It's not only football, we're going to get a few more volleyball matches coming up. Hopefully another soccer match or 2 as well down the stretch before we get into postseason play coming up really quickly with the volleyball as well, specifically. And then football, final week right before Halloween, and then November. Hoping to have some fun stuff going there in terms of the WPIL playoffs. Again, we'll have coverage with the NFHS network as well throughout the course of the WPIL postseason. But for now, Week 4 in the books, Week 5 preview. Keep your eyes open. It's coming shortly here on the Lawrence County SportsNet podcast series, delivered by Penn Ohio Bottled Water. We're lcsportsnet.com, powered by LCAP.